So in a separate video, I talk about a couple of vocabulary lists that I have added on my little WordPress blog, along with corresponding Quizlet sets that you are free to access. Here I want to run through the top 10 words on this list in terms of how frequently they appear throughout the various practice tests and medium and hard question bank questions. And so the first one here is tenuous. It appears 4 times throughout that set, and at least a couple of times on words and context questions. And so tenuous basically means weak or insubstantial. And so it can be used to describe something like an argument or a position. Tenuous we want to distinguish from tenable. If an argument is tenable, it is one that can be, in a sense, held, maintained. Something that's untenable might also be tenuous. Again, tenuous meaning, again, weak or insubstantial. Substantiate also appears, I think, 4 times. So to prove with evidence, or at least to support with evidence. So he failed to substantiate his claim with facts. And so this is related to the noun substance. If something has substance, it has, it has validity. If an argument has substance, it is a strong argument, or at least it has evidence to back it up. So substantiate, and then also substantial. If something is substantial, it has substance. But here, this word substantiate, something you would likely see in a scientific type passage. And so some other potential synonyms here would be words such as confirm, validate, support, so on and so forth. They have many occasions to use words like this, given these strengthen and weaken passages and other sciencey passages. And so substantiate. Next one, scrutinize. I think it also appears 4 times. So to examine closely. The related noun here would be scrutiny. So if something can withstand scrutiny, it can withstand a close examination. So the details of a manuscript. This could also apply to, again, like an argument or a case that somebody is making. If it doesn't withstand scrutiny, it might actually be tenuous and hard to substantiate. Prolific. So a prolific author is one who produces a lot of books or articles or whatever it is that they produce. A prolific songwriter writes a lot of songs, so on and so forth. It doesn't necessarily mean that those things are good. I mean, it is generally a positive word, but prolific refers to quantity, not necessarily quality. Related words here, prolificacy would be the noun, but that's not something you see very often. So we'll just stick with the adjective here. Empirical, another sciencey word. So you can remember empirical if you lump it together with a couple of other E words. So evidence and experience. So if something is empirical, it is based on observation or experience rather than theory. So antonyms or opposites here would include theoretical, speculative, conjectural. Not a word you're going to see quite as often, although they like conjecture, the verb form of that. Hypothetical. All of those mean things that are kind of in the realm of ideas as opposed to hard data, evidence, experience, etc. To diminish, to reduce in size or importance. So to lessen. His influence in the company began to diminish. Some of these example sentences are not the greatest because without some more context, it's hard to know exactly what it means. But if it began to diminish, it began to decrease over time. So that's related to, diminishing, and a noun that you would not see very often, but maybe you might see it occasionally, diminution. Diminution, a reduction or decrease. Ubiquitous, so if something is ubiquitous, it is present everywhere or seemingly present everywhere. Omnipresent would be a synonym, so present all over the place. All present. So smartphones have become ubiquitous in modern life. The related noun form of this would be ubiquity, the state of being ubiquitous. I do not know a verb that relates to this, so we'll just stick with these two, but they like this word. But anyway, that is ubiquitous. Pragmatic. First word that comes to mind when I see pragmatic is practical, but dealing with things sensibly and realistically, she took a pragmatic approach. So the opposite of pragmatic would be something like idealistic. If somebody is focused more on big ideas and concepts and philosophical matters, they might be less concerned with getting things done on a pragmatic level. But if a politician is pragmatic, he or she is focused on getting things done, even if they're not necessarily perfect. Exacerbate, to make a problem worse. So his rude remarks exacerbated the tension in the room. And so the important thing here is when you exacerbate something, you're taking something that's already bad and making it worse. The opposite of this, or an opposite of it, would be ameliorate. So if you ameliorate a situation, you're taking a bad situation or a problem and making it better or at least less bad. Again, exacerbate, taking something bad, already bad, and making it worse. And then finally, the most common word appearing 7 times throughout the sample, ephemeral. So lasting for a very short time. The beauty of a sunset is ephemeral. So fleeting, intangible. Now, it's not the exact same thing, because if something is intangible, you can't touch it. If something is ephemeral, it lasts for a very short time. But both of them are sort of hard to put your finger on in a sense. So ephemeral, lasting a very short time. There is a related noun that I know appears in one of the question bank questions, ephemera. And that is, that must be Greek in origin, because that's a plural, kind of like data. And it refers to things that are not necessarily meant to be long-lasting, like, let's say, ticket stubs or newspaper clippings, things that might have been saved even if they weren't necessarily intended to be saved for a long time. And so, but not nearly as important a word as the adjective form ephemeral. And so, is this the full list of all the words you need to know for the SAT? No, but again, I'll refer you to those longer lists, one of 75 high-frequency words from which I drew this top 10, and then 365 words, and you can go from there. But I hope you found this helpful. Questions or comments, leave them below.